Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Whether you're new to the show or an old friend, I'm so glad you can join us. Mission Evolution is the place to find the latest knowledge from today's leading experts. This hour, we'll look into the wake-up call. The shift of consciousness is upon us. In numerous myths, legends, prophecies from multiple cultures predict these very times as one of great change and upheaval. Many also indicate that humankind will take a giant leap of consciousness. What is this mysterious shift in consciousness? How will it impact us as individuals and as a whole? With us this hour to explore the concept of the shift is Rob MacGREGOR. Rob has been a professional writer of both nonfiction and fiction books since 1984. He's written extensively on the pursuit of inner paths. His nonfiction books on synchronicity, dreams, yoga, meditation, and the mysteries of the unknown reflect such inner journeys. With his wife, Trish, he co-authored their latest book, The Shift, Reports from the Mystical Underground. His website, themysticalunderground.com. Rob, thanks very much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thanks for the invitation.
It's lovely to be able to spend some time with you. Now, I know you get a lot of this, Rob, but can you tell us a little bit about, I understand you wrote Indiana Jones series. What prompted that?
Synchronicity, I guess. It's something that kind of fell into my lap. I was well prepared to write about an archaeologist since I went to college to study archaeology, actually. But I got to my junior year and I took a journalism class and I said, this looks like an easier path to getting a job afterwards, since I'd have to take several more years of college. And there are only several hundred archaeologists in the world that were actually working. And so I changed to journalism as a major, and after college got into writing, into working on newspapers, daily newspapers and magazines as a writer and editor. And what I would do is I would work for about a year and a half, saving my money, and then just take off. I would go to Mexico, Central and South America, Europe, North Africa, and trips for anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months. And I'd always be headed right to the ruins because that's always been my interest. And so I had traveled extensively. And at one point in my career, I came across I interviewed a young woman, and it turned out to be Trish, who became my wife. And we both quit our jobs after a couple of months and had about $5,000 saved and took off, got married and went to our honeymoon to Ecuador and Chile, and came back and started working as travel writers at first. And then Trish got her first novel published. She had written at that point when I met her, she was on her 6th unpublished novel. I edited that one for her, and it sold on like the 25th attempt. Editor who read it bought it. And shortly after that, I sold a nonfiction book. And so we both quit our temporary jobs. We've been working part-time, Trish teaching English as a second language to Cuban refugees mostly, and then I was working on a weekly newspaper in South Florida. Both quit our jobs and struck out as freelancers, and we lasted about 2-3 months when we ran out of money. But we just kept plugging away at it, and gradually Trish sold her novel. I sold mine after about a year, and we've been pretty much at it ever since. And so what happened with the Indiana Jones, I had written a couple of adaptations of television. We'd worked on uh, it slips my mind now. Famous television show. I can't think of it right now. And anyhow, we'd got the opportunity to. I got the opportunity to write adaptation of a couple of episodes of a television series, and I did that. And the editor said, "Oh, can you do another one? The writer has just dropped out, and can you do it real fast?" So I did. I worked on it and got it out. And as a reward, she said, "How would you like to write the adaptation of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the third movie?" And I said yes, and I did that. And I was told by Lucasfilm that, okay, you got 8 weeks, but if you can finish this in 6 weeks, we'll give you a bonus. So I plugged in and finished it in 6 weeks. And to my surprise, it made the New York Times bestseller list. And then they asked me, "How would you like to write original Indiana Jones novels?" And George Lucas said, "Let's go back to the 1920s when he's just starting his career." And that's what I did. All 6 of those novels take place in the 1920s. So that's
And
what
they're
I did.
wonderful novels, absolutely wonderful. So I feel very honored to get to
Yeah,
ask you about them. And
yeah.
now you've shifted nonfiction for this latest book, The Shift.
Mhm.
Um, what what is it about exactly? What is the shift?
The shift is an underlying shift in consciousness that's taking place involving hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And it's both personal and a collective experience. It's about connecting to a deeper part of ourselves, to a universal consciousness, increasing our abilities to see beyond our 5 senses. So it's beyond religion, politics, mainstream science, and it's overlooked by the mainstream media as well that focuses on conflict. So at the heart of it is like a growing recognition that we're all energetically entangled.
Mm.
Although in the everyday world it seems we're divided, and but at a deeper level, we're all interconnected. So
And
it's
isn't that the theme right now? Is that everything is so polarized and in upheaval, but it's not working anymore.
yeah, it's things are chaotic, and that's it's all part of the process of what's going on.
So, Rob, where do you get your information? I mean, this is leading edge stuff. Where do you get your information for this?
Uh, some of it's intuitive, others just Google. you know,
Good old Google.
right. Books. I've got lots of books I've read over the years, and knowledge I've gained, and but a lot of it is the sense of it is intuitive as well.
So, is it like you are able to start to see patterns as they're emerging?
To some degree, it's tricky because there is so much chaos, and you think, how could this really be going on with the all the chaos and the division? But yet there's something, this underlying thing that's going on where people are changing. There's just more and more recognition of synchronicity, meaningful coincidence now than there ever was in the past. People are tuning into extrasensory perception more, and it's some of it's kind of frightening when it first happens to people as they go into this personal shift.
Do you think that the chaos is actually a result of the shift in a way? That the old has to break apart before the new can take form?
Exactly. I think we're in a state of evolution basically, and it's a paradigm shift, and anything major change like that, there's going to be resistance to it. You know, it's just old ways are hard to give up, and the resistance really has been stronger than I think this shift really started back in the late 60s, early 70s with the counterculture. And at the time, we thought that by the 80s, things would be really different. But it turned out that the resistance was a lot stronger and has been stronger. But in a sense, in the larger picture, it's all part of the picture that's taking place. And a lot of people see that there's, you know, feel that there's a need for this great chaos of breaking down and completely starting over again. I don't see that as a great way to go, and I hope that doesn't happen. But it's we'll see how things develop.
Kind of depends on how stubborn we are, doesn't it?
Exactly right.
Do you think that COVID played a large part in this final breakdown that we're kind of looking at?
COVID had pluses and minuses. It was terrible for some people who lost their jobs and their family life was disrupted. But for a lot of people, it was a chance to break out and find what they really wanted to do in life, and never went back to those old jobs and are pursuing more creative endeavors. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely a positive thing for a lot of people.
It also kind of shattered the illusion of everything was going to remain the same and continue to expand in that direction, did it not?
It did, yeah. It just shook things up and continues to shake things up. And there's a lot of resistance, even related to COVID and the vaccines, and that's still going on. Although it seems like that should be drifting into the past as the COVID drifts into the past. But who knows? We'll see.
We'll definitely see. So he kind of reminds me of the plagues of Egypt. When the Pharaoh was so stubborn, they kept bringing worse and worse plagues. From locust to this to that.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like that's what we're looking at here in a certain way, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Uh, it's maybe there's could be another one coming that would create even worse situations. But now, hopefully, we're more prepared for it than we were, and hopefully we'll have leaders who will act quickly, because ultimately it could be very tragic for the entire world. Hundreds of millions of people dying rather than a few million.
I tend to be optimistic, though. I have a lot of faith in the brilliance of humankind along with the narcissism. And I think that the narcissism will give way to the brilliance and we'll come up with some decent solutions. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're about out of time in this segment, but all this upheaval that we're going through at this time, and how do you see this emergence coming at the same time? I mean, it's like it's a parallel path, isn't it, of the consciousness coming forth?
It is, and it's something that's an underlying uh, interconnectedness that we have that is not. I mean, the media doesn't report on it. Science doesn't really accept it, but yet it's happening, and it's subtle but strong. But there is resistance both in the physical world of people who are want to go to the past and stay there, and also in the non-physical world, there is also resistance by those who are in the non-physical world, who take advantage and feed off the chaos and disruption that's going on in this world.
Yeah, that's a theme I've heard before, and I'm really excited to get into that one with you on the other side of the commercial break because I've heard it from so many different sources. When you hear something enough times, you go, okay, what is this really about?
Yeah.
That there is something out there benefiting from our polarization, our segregation, our trauma, drama. So that
Mhm.
makes sense to me. I just like to know what it is. So it is time for Rob and I to take that break. We will return very shortly. So don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing an awakening of consciousness is Rob MacGregor. His website, themysticalunderground.com. Rob, before we went into the break, we were talking about how there maybe some entities, if you will, um, non-physical possibly, that benefit from and feed off of the status quo, and therefore there's resistance to changing it. What more do you know about that?
Well, actually, I hear about it quite often from one particular person who is, I consider her a very advanced person who has the ability to leave her body at will, travel throughout the cosmos, and reappear in different dimensions in the physical. But she finally ran into trouble. She saved a little girl who was being held against her will by entities, and they came after her. And that was like 3, 4 years ago, and they're still after her. Uh, I mean, she calls them demons, and their energy, negative energy. Uh, she has names for them, and they've attacked her repeatedly, and she's sought help in many places, and people, think that oh, she must be crazy. But I've known this woman for years, and we've had her on our podcast 3 different times, and she has recordings of these entities we've played. It's pretty scary, and Trish and I, we don't want to believe in demons, you know.
I like it. I like the warm and fuzzy. We can just
Yeah,
stick with human
right.
for it. Yes. Yeah.
But so yeah, I've heard quite a bit about it, and and that's the bigger picture, is that they feed on the chaos and the disruption, the anger, the feuding, and they want to keep it that way. They don't want us to evolve.
Well, even setting demons aside, there's a lot of human beings that do exactly the same thing.
Exactly right. That don't want to go along with the progress and the evolution that we're moving into, and prefer to look back at the past when things were different, and kind of go back there again and try to recreate what was once. When the
Except
world.
putting themselves on top of the pile, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's has to be something that's causing this shift of consciousness. What is it exactly? Do you know?
Well, I think it's our higher selves that are pulling us forward, and higher consciousness, and that is the direction we're going as a race, humans. And it's we're there's it's not all flowers and butterflies to get there, and so this is what we're experiencing now. It's our
Does
path.
There's a lot of talk, has been for years, by the New Age movement, that we're entering in a different frequency, if you will, in the universe, and that's precipitating change at the spiritual and actually physical level. Have you heard anything about that? And what's your take on that?
Um, a different frequency. Yeah, I think that the frequency is being experienced by some more than others, and that if you want to cling to a lower frequency, you can do that, at least for a while. But there's the possibility of moving into a higher state of consciousness.
There's a price of entry, though, isn't there? Could you speak to that a little?
Well, it takes some work. It's not something that just comes all at once, although it might seem like it comes all at once, because when what happens is people, we call it the catalyst. People go through this dramatic experience that uh, it's they have some kind of key event that alters their lives and leads them to a new way of perceiving reality. And basically it's a personal shift of consciousness that that might take you away from old ways of thinking and behaving. It's an opportunity to see the bigger picture. What people tend to do is they leave their old ways. They drop their jobs, and just like we were mentioning, with the pandemic, that was a window for a lot of people to do that. And you tend to lose old friendships sometimes because people don't understand you anymore because of what's happened to you and what you're going through. And for some people, they actually feel like they're going crazy when you have these incredible synchronicities repeated over and over again, numerous ones. And then you finally work your way into more of a stable situation as you continue to grow.
Would you mind giving some examples of what these catalysts might be?
Um, okay, there's a psychiatrist named Bernard Beitman who's at the University of Virginia. So it was 11 p.m. in 1973. He was living in San Francisco. He was in college. And he suddenly started choking. He hadn't been eating or anything, but he could hardly breathe. He was choking, gasping. It lasted like 15, 20 minutes. He didn't know what happened to him. The next day, he got a call from his brother across the country on the East Coast, telling him that his father had died at 2 a.m. on the East Coast, the exact time that Bernard was choking. He choked to death on his blood. And so
Oh,
that for Bernard was an incredible, wake up call that made him see this bigger reality. I've got another story though that is pretty incredible that involves a man named Andy Paquette, somebody who has also been on our blog, our podcast a couple of times. He he was living in Amsterdam he'd been there about 3 months, and he really didn't have any belief in an afterlife, any belief in psychic abilities or anything like that. And he had a dream that he was walking down a familiar street in Amsterdam, and these two men came up on either side of him, big guys, and they grabbed a hold of him, and he knew they were after his money, and they wanted him to uh, continue walking and turn into this. There's a wall on the side of the sidewalk, and they want him to turn into this alley. And he knew they were going to take his money, so he decided to just go along with it and let them give them his money. They took him back, and he saw a body back there, and he knew that these men had killed this man to rob him, and that's what was going to happen to him. And the two men were talking in Dutch a bit, and the guy, one of them had a gun, and he started lowering the gun. So Andy reached for the gun, but he was too late. And the guy pulled the gun, and shot him right in the neck. And Andy felt this extreme pain in his neck and felt the warm blood coming down over his chest and shirt. And the next thing he knows, he's out of his body, and he's thinks of his girlfriend Kitty in New York, and he's suddenly in her mother's apartment where she's living. He's floating above her. She doesn't know that he's died. She can tell. He can tell, and he sees her, and then he wakes up, and he's in his apartment in Amsterdam, and he's so surprised that he's alive. He couldn't believe, had a hard time believing that he is actually alive after that experience. He called Kitty and told her about it, and he decided in talking with her that he's going to leave Amsterdam as soon as he can and go back, and they would get an apartment together. So 2 weeks pass. He goes, he's ready to leave. He goes and empties his bank account. He picks up his one-way ticket, and then he turns down this street, and as he's heading back, and he realizes, oh, this is that street I was in on my dream. And he's walking along, and suddenly a big guy comes up on his left, and then a big guy on his right, and one of them puts his arm around him and say, hey, how you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you for a while. And he knows they're after his money, but he's thinking, I know this road, I know this street, and there's no alley, so they can't put me in the alley. They keep walking, and he realizes that there has been this barrier along the way, and now the barrier has cleared, and there is an alley he sees for the first time, and it realizes he's no way that he is going into that alley with those guys because he knows what the results will be. So he tells them he speaks a little Dutch now, and he tells them that he's been here 3 years, and his money is just in guilders. He doesn't have much money, and one of the men releases him slightly, and he's kind of disappointed because they thought he was a tourist, and he takes advantage of it, breaks away, runs across the street, yelling to a newsstand, yelling that these men are attempting to rob him, and he gets to the newsstand, looks back, and the two guys are running down the road away from him, and he escapes. So he felt that dream he had was foreshadowed an actual experience that he would have, and he knew what to do to get away and save his life.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned another rabbit hole I'd like to go down. You mentioned that people are going through a lot as a result, of the shift as we start to undergo it as individuals, and it can be very disconcerting. It can be very frightening in a way. What signs and symptoms are we seeing here?
Yeah, you can hear voices, you can see visions. There's a woman we've know named Candace Sanderson, who lives not too far from us, who is an elementary school counselor, who one day was coming home from her job, driving along, and she hears a voice, and it gives her this very flowery information that she's fascinated by it. And she goes home and starts writing down, and she starts hearing that voice all the time. And she doesn't know where this voice came from, but she kept writing it down, and is just amazed by this information she's receiving, and ended up writing a book called Reluctant Messenger. And she has continued to follow this path for several years now.
So you've given the example of somebody that's having precognizant dreams that they maybe didn't before. Then now you're talking about somebody that has like daydreams, that's hearing voices, if you will, but is bringing through information. What else do we see?
Synchronicity. That's
That's the other rabbit hole I wanted to go down.
yeah. It's a trigger. And for some people that experience so many, as I mentioned, these meaningful coincidences, that it's coming right at the awakening to the shift, that they have a hard time handling it at first. And it's when these happen, it's what really connects our everyday world to a deeper reality, really.
What is a synchronicity? What causes it?
Synchronicity is meaningful coincidence. It's when two similar things come together in a spooky way, you could say. It's outside of cause and effect, and it's usually a thought and a similar event in the world coming together. You know, so just as an example, you might think of a person who you haven't thought of for 2 decades, who maybe you went to college with or whatever, and a short time later, you suddenly get a Facebook request from that person. And so that's a synchronicity, but it could also be a precognition, it could be telepathy. So I see synchronicity as kind of an umbrella of all these different types of paranormal psychic experiences.
Well, we're just about time for another commercial break, but I like the way you opened up that there are different causes for synchronicity. It could be a precog, it could be you're remembering a dream, it could be telepathy that somebody has contacted you unwittingly and then you think of them and then they call.
Yeah,
I'd really like to go into that on the other side of the break if you don't mind.
sure.
So, Rob and I will be right back now to continue this fascinating discussion. So, stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour is Rob MacGREGOR. His website, themysticalunderground.com. Rob, we were about to get into the different possible causes of synchronicity, and I'd also like to get into how can you tell synchronicity from a coinkydink?
Um, that's a good question. I guess you know, a synchronicity is something that's meaningful to you. Sometimes, there might be uh, something just doesn't. A lot of people have, coincidences that just pass by and they don't think anything about it. But the, the ones that are synchronicities, oftentimes there's a feeling that happens at the time. I remember uh, one time there's a friend I had met um, had met her in Guatemala. She was in South Florida, staying for a while, and I gave her and her boyfriend a ride to the Miami airport when they're leaving, and it was the man was kind of a New Age reverend from Jamaica. They'd been in Jamaica, and she'd stayed there a while, and he was had like a little New Age church there, and so we had this very spiritual conversation going on in the car, and it's just like there was a higher frequency or something, a feeling that was going on. And then this car passes up, and it has the license plate Zen 665, and I pointed it out, and the man, John, he says, wouldn't it be interesting if we saw Zen 666? Not 2 minutes later, that car goes by us, Zen 666. I don't know what it means, but there it was. It's like he predicted that. And I saw that same car like 3 years later and with the same license plate in my neighborhood. So, that's the one kind of thing that with synchronicity, that this feeling. But sometimes it's the circumstances, the events that are going on. Uh, and they don't always take place. Everybody thinks synchronicities take place instantaneously. You have this thought, and the experience happens, and it may blow your mind that, wow, how did that happen? I was just thinking that sometimes synchronicities can take time. For example, years ago, I had written, co-authored a couple books on the Bermuda Triangle, and I was invited by UFO, the documentary television series UFO Hunters, to go to Andros Island uh, to be interviewed there. And Andros Island, there is a so-called secret Navy base called AUTEC. AUTEC is Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center. And what the UFO hunters were interested there about that place is that about 70% of the people who work there are civilians, and they had talked to several people who had seen these undersea UFOs or crafts. Most of this base, I should explain, is underwater, because right off it drops down like to 6,000 square feet right off the base. And so there's submarines there, and they do a lot of testing with submarines. But there's also something else going on there, and it's been called the Undersea Area 51. And so the UFO hunters wanted to interview the commander of the base. The producers had called over and over, and not only did they get a no, they never got any response at all. So after I was interviewed, and my co-author was interviewed, the head of the UFO hunters said, let's go over and see if we can get into the base, and maybe the commander will talk to us. So we got in this Jeep, drove over there. So we and was with the camera crew, and we got out maybe 50 yards away from the entrance. And we got out, and the camera crew got ready. And suddenly these two police cars came, went to the gate, and they didn't just point to the gate, they pointed at each other, like blocking the gate, which didn't seem a good sign. And then we heard this noise, and this black helicopter lifts up from behind the wall, hovers over us. And so Bill, who's the head of the UFO hunters, said, I don't think they're too welcome. They're not welcoming us here very much. So we backed away, and there was no interview. Couldn't get to the commander. Couldn't get inside for a tour, even which is what they wanted to do at first. So okay, several months go by. I'm on the west coast of Florida, helping my daughter get into college, or get into her dorm. She's already in college, and helping her unpack. And Trish and I decided to go out to dinner downtown Sarasota, where she's going to college. And we go to this. It's a Friday night. It's really crowded. We go to this restaurant. Most of it's outdoor seating, and there's a live band there, and it's really crowded. But we see two seats that are open on a high top table, and we ask the people, "Do you mind if we sit here?" And they say, "Okay, fine." So we join them, and the music takes a break, and so we start talking to them. And the guy is the commander of AUTEC, who just retired, who was the commander at that base at the time we tried to get in. So here I am sitting across from him. And so I tell him about UFO hunters and how we tried to contact him and see him. And this is what amounts to a trickster synchronicity, because he said, "I want to talk to you. It's too noisy here." And he wrote down his email address, handed it to me in this little scrap of paper. And then he and his girlfriend said, "Oh, we're going to cross the street to this other bar. You want to join us?" Which was an opportunity to get to know him better. But now we decided now we're going to leave. So we went back, and I never found that piece of scrap of paper again, and lost contact with them. So I consider that a trickster synchronicity, and it's also one that took place over time, because it was the UFO hunters are really trying to contact that guy, and suddenly I'm sitting with him. So that's
So what do you think, what role does synchronicity play in enlightenment, in spiritual awakening? So far I haven't made the connection there.
It's well. Can I give a scientific description?
That would be lovely, yes.
Okay, so theoretical physicist David Bohm described reality as existing as an explicate order and an implicate order. The explicate order is what we experience in the everyday world, while the implicate order is a deeper and more fundamental reality that exists outside of time and space, and from which births everything in the explicate order. So our
So kind of like
everyday
the quantum level, is that?
so our everyday reality emerges from this implicate order, and that's where we come from, and that's where we go to. And so synchronicity lies at the border of the implicate and the explicate order, and gives us a peek at this greater reality.
So then how does that apply to our spiritual awakening, to the shift
Well,
that we're going through?
the synchronicities, like I said, they're right at the border of the implicate and the explicate, and it gives us a peek at this deeper reality, the higher order. And so this evolution, I believe, is coming from the implicate order, if you want to look at it in scientific terms of a theoretical physicist.
Why would it be coming at this time? Why not before now or after now?
Yeah, well, that's
Because they both existed, right?
yeah, it's another thing the physicists say is that there's no such thing as time, that all time exists simultaneously. So it's happening now.
Is the present moment the only time we really experience it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't. It's happening, and you know, we can think, well, it wasn't happening before, or is it going to be happening later on? It's hard to say, because if time unfolds simultaneously, that's it's happening constantly. The unfolding of our evolution.
But we seem to be more in tune with it or aware of it at this point in history than we have prior. How how is that working together? How is the um, being on the gate between cause and effect?
Mhm.
How is that going to help us in this process?
It's I think we just become more in tune with our deeper selves, our higher selves, and uh, the synchronicities are a way of awakening many people. And as they continue, they're means of helping us move forward into this evolution.
So, which begs the question, what is a higher self?
Um, yeah, a higher self is us, but a higher self could be, it's hard to explain because there could be other physical beings that are also part of this higher self and that are like soul brothers, soul sisters, and that, but they're all associated with this higher self. And then there's those higher selves have their own higher self. So you kind of work your way up uh, with through consciousness, and from the physical to the non-physical.
It sounds like you're kind of describing the continuum between where we are now and the unified field.
Mm, yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't know. I I don't know. How do you describe the unified field, I guess?
Well, that's when everything becomes resonant and is in contact with everything else, is connected with everything
Right,
else,
yeah,
rather than the segregation we experience here.
right. Yeah, that's what we're moving towards and experiencing gradually.
Or rapidly, as the case may be.
Yeah, right. Sometimes can seem very rapid as these experiences happen.
So, how can the average person use the concept of synchronicity to aid this process?
It's interesting because it's not, you can't really say, okay, I'm going to have a synchronicity now. You can be one. First, you have to be aware of synchronicity, that it exists, and believe that it exists. Because if there's no synchronicity at all, if you don't believe in, if you just think coincidence is a random experience, and so the first step is to uh, accept synchronicity as a reality, and you can also kind of tune into it by being watchful and aware, and you know see what happens. If I don't think, it's like dreaming in a way. If I don't think about dreaming, I don't have any dreams. But if I program a dream uh, before I go to bed, I want to remember it. Maybe I'm having those dreams, but I don't remember them. And so if I uh, think about it and prepare for it in the morning, I tend to remember 2, 3 dreams. And
S-
synchronicity is somewhat like that.
So it sounds like synchronicity is tied in somewhat with intent. The intent to remember, the intent to notice, the intent to put it together.
Right. That's very, very much a part of it. And you know, if like I said, if you don't have the interest or the awareness or the belief, I had one person approach me and he said, all my life I've had one synchronicity, and he went on to describe at great length, and I didn't really understand what he meant, what it was, but I just found it fascinating because I probably had 3 synchronicities that day, and he just said this was the one synchronicity he had in his 60 years of life. And so it's all different perspectives that we have.
And situational awareness and being tuned in, like you said, to
Yeah.
pay attention. As
Mhm.
well, we're just about at the end of this segment, so we're going to have to take another station break. But on the other side, we'll get deeper into synchronicity and where are we going with this shift. So please stay with us as Rob and I continue to explore the consciousness revolution. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour is Rob MacGregor. His website, themysticalunderground.com. Rob, we were still talking about synchronicity because it feels like it's a kingpin of some sort here, but I'm still not real clear on it. Um, at first, we talked about, well, you can't just make a synchronicity happen. But then you were talking about how, well, actually, maybe you can by wanting one, by paying attention to what's going around, by making connections rather than just dismissing everything as a coincidence that lines up. Um, so which is it? Can we make them happen? And if we do, how can we make use of them?
Well, you can make them happen in preparing yourself. I mean, it's not something that it's not a cause and effect. I'm going to have a synchronicity, and then it happens. It sometimes they don't. They just come mainly as a surprise without any preparation at all. Oftentimes, and you can also actually see other people experience synchronicity. I had one experience where I saw my wife have an incredible synchronicity. Uh, we were in she grew up in Venezuela, and we had gone back to Caracas, and we were just leaving uh, at the airport, and it was at a time when the Colombian drug cartel was trying to move cocaine uh, through Venezuela, through Caracas to Miami. And so there was a very strong military presence with all these young men, like 15, 16 years old, with these machine guns standing around. It's kind of scary. And so there was this table, and they said, put your luggage there, open it up, take it all out, and examine it. There was one man with nearby. He was a tall man. He was wearing a three-piece suit, and all he had was a briefcase. And he laid it on the table, and I said, "Open it." Now, this looked like somebody who might be in a little bit of trouble at that point. And so all these guys with the machine guns were leaning forward. We were kind of leaning forward. It was a very fevered environment at that moment. He unlatches it, lifts it up. There is only one thing in that briefcase, and it's Trisha's novel, Fevered. I mean, we didn't say anything to him. I mean, it wasn't I mean, she couldn't really say, "Oh, I wrote that book." We just wanted to get out of there. But we got in the airport. We never saw that guy again. It was so strange. It was just like a paranormal experience, and a psychic, a synchronicity, but something even beyond that. It was, we've told that story to people, and it didn't just happen to Trish, it happened to me too. So I was, watching, observing that happen. So, what does that mean, you ask? It's, I think it's just, again, it's tuning in to a higher reality, and being able to experience something that's beyond the everyday world of cause and effect.
So it sounds like a bleed through for sure.
Bleed
And
through,
we can certainly see the usefulness of your friend not wanting to go in that alley. Okay.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's very useful.
yeah.
But in ancient times and clear to the present, people ask for signs, people read symbols, people use synchronicity as a divinational tool.
Mhm.
Is there some way we can do that now?
Yeah. You know, astrology is a form of divination and synchronicity in a sense, but you can also, the easiest way of creating synchronicity is to do the divination with the dictionary. Ask a question, open it up, and put your finger on a word or a meaning and read it and see how it applies to what you asked. And it's amazing, the answers that you can come up with. It's astonishing sometimes.
So that would be the basis behind tarot cards and all sorts of things, wouldn't it?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definition.
interesting. So let's change gears just a little bit here. You talk about compassion and its role in the shift. Would you speak to that a little bit for us?
Yeah. It's We have a chapter called Compassion Revolution, and it's about opening the heart, the empathy for others, but it's also about contemplation, meditation, and mindfulness. And it's interesting that now there are college courses in mindfulness, which they didn't have that when I was in college. But it's all about the heart, really. The heart is at the basis of it. We have this, long mythology about the heart, archetypal symbol of love and compassion. And actually, science has found we evolved from the heart, not the brain. And the heart has 40,000 sensory neurons that have both short and long-term memory. So more information is sent from the heart to the brain than from the brain to the heart. So that's, so in other words, the ancients who thought of the heart as being a key to our existence and to our empathy, love, related to compassion and love, and they were right. Yeah.
And that's the base of all major religions too, is that the heart piece.
Yeah.
So if we have heart intelligence, there's a whole group called Heart Math, I believe, that
Yeah, right. Yeah.
really got into heart intelligence, and it's pretty profound.
Yeah.
So if that's so much of our power, and we talked earlier about people and things wishing for the status quo to remain of trauma, drama, abuse, um, upheaval, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
those things tend to put us in the back brain of fight or flight and shut down our heart so that we don't have access to it.
Right.
Do you think that's intentional? And can we reverse that so that we can access this compassion and heart intelligence so that we can move forward?
Yeah, and one of the ways of reversing it is not reacting to those who are doing those things and thinking those things and wanting those things that go take us back, and doing things that are contradictory to what we believe we should be doing. It's easy to get caught up, and I've done it. It's happened to me a number of times, and it just takes a lot of work to maintain this mindfulness of what you're thinking, what you're doing, and not get drawn in when people say and do things that sometimes it's very people who I'm just thinking of a neighbor, very nice people, very beautiful people, but don't talk them about politics, or you're gonna blow your mind.
They're gone.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, we stay away from politics and religion. Thank you very much.
Right, exactly.
But if we think about it, the tendency to polarize, the tendency to go into these mind loops, if you will, of
Yeah,
negativity is
yeah.
actually probably from our historical damage. So, is this where the work comes in, that we have to unearth these places that make us vulnerable to kicking into polarization and to drama trauma?
Yeah, I think that this is something we've got to go through and experience, and try to learn from it. And uh, it's a lot about self-awareness and dealing with it, and not allowing yourself to get caught up in it. And it's it's a challenge, and as we you know it's just something that we have to deal with. There, I'm thinking of this chant. Let's see. Uh, ah, it slips
It
my
went go. It went away too. It went to the same place that the book you were thinking about earlier went, right?
Miami Vice was the name of the book.
See, it'll come back.
We worked on Miami Vice.
So,
Yeah.
so the if we are indeed experiencing a thinning between the veils, if you will, between the quantum level and the ordinary reality level, could also that be thinning the veils between what we're experiencing and feeling and that what other is experiencing and feeling? Ergo, how much of the trauma we're feeling is our own and how much of it is environmental?
Hmm. It's a good point. It's uh, I think it's a combination, obviously, that some of it is within us, our inner experiences, and uh, just like the people who are wanting to go back to the past, they have personal reasons that their own experiences that they feel that way, and they have a fear. It's about dealing with fears, I guess, that we have to contend with.
So, is there a resonance between our fears and fears of others that's also giving us grief?
Um, yeah, I guess there'd be that's where the conflict comes when our fears are reflected on with their fears, and their fears go one way, ours may go another way, and causing more disruption and chaos.
And polarization if we go different directions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, this is about the time in the show when I have to ask you, Rob, what is your mission?
Um, I guess what I'm looking at is like a vision that I see that we we could we could lead to. I guess as more and more people awaken to their inner self, we see a path towards the light, and I have a number of things that I could mention in that on that path. So, using the principles of democracy as a springboard, what uh, might politics and culture in our lives be like after the shift? And here's a few ideas I have. So, people and corporations work for the greater good, not only for personal gain and larger profits at the cost of the greater good. Communities instead of tribes. In a community, people work together, come together, and tribes, they find a way to go to war with other tribes. Greed is seen as a sickness. Those who seek to turn millions into countless billions of personal wealth are shunned in this future. A heart centered awareness and the power of intuition become guiding forces. Guaranteed minimum income, universal health care, racial and sexual equality, embracing people from different cultures, and yes, taking in refugees from countries where their lives are threatened, standing up for human rights of the planet, supporting artists, writers, musicians, creatives, recognizing that we're all interconnected. What affects one ultimately affects all. In every situation, more self-love, not less, less judgment, less self-criticism. And finally, taking responsibility for our emotions and stop blaming the others for what we feel.
Beautiful mission. And if we're just about out of time, quickly, what's the first step anyone can take?
I think the first step is to stop the self-criticism and self-love. Love yourself. That's
Absolutely. Well, that magic moment has arrived. We
yeah,
are out of time. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show.
you're welcome.
Our guest this hour has been Rob MacGregor. Rob has been a professional writer of both nonfiction and fiction books since 1984. His latest, The Shift, reports from the mystical underground. His website, themysticalunderground.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or enjoy our past archived episodes, visit us at www.missionevolution.org. Please join us right here next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our evolving world.